Hi, this is Stephen E. Andrews, Outlaw Bookseller, and I thought it was time for a channel update. Just looking where we are at the moment, I'm in front of my PC here. I see that we currently have 836 subscribers. Thank you all very, very, very much. It's absolutely fantastic. And of course, we're aiming for the big 1,000 within the next couple of months. And so spread the word, do share and subscribe if you watch but haven't subscribed, because subscription is important, because until I can get the right number of subscribers and start doing a small amount of money on this, it does make it very hard for me to continue this beyond a year, because I think I've made nearly 200 videos in about 7 months. So it's saturation bombing, but it does seem to have worked. So I wanted to talk today about where the channel is, what's coming up, a few other sort of little things as well. There may be fewer posts over the next 10 days because I'm actually on holiday next week. That doesn't mean I'm flying off somewhere, you know, hot and sunny and glamorous. I'm not. I'm just having days out. Things have been rather stymied by my sudden realisation the other day that Monday is bank holiday, and being the misanthrope I am, I hate bank holidays. I wanted to go out and wander around Bristol on my own, secure in the knowledge that the majority of people work and school and not in my way. So, you know, so if you're a misanthrope like me, I guess I've just made you miserable as well. But it means I've got to squeeze things in. I've got a friend coming over next week. I'm planning to meet Tom Toner to talk about E&M banks and discuss him. That's going to be interesting. I'm going on a big walk in South Wales on Saturday, which I'll be filming. Some filming by my friend Martin has already been done for that in terms of drone footage and dash cam footage. So it's going to be an epic. That hopefully will go up on Tuesday. This is all weather dependent. I also seem to have a dodgy hip for the last 12 hours, which is a bit strange. So hopefully I can do the walk. I'll be seeing some friends over there. And, you know, there'll be other stuff as well. In about, let me see, about 2 weeks' time, there's an interview with a major British contemporary thriller writer going to be going out. We're going to be filming that and lots of other stuff as well. So, so just to say again, thanks to everybody who has subscribed. About the content on the channel, there's a lot of people in the recent weeks, the last month or so, have joined because the science fiction content. And I'm very pleased with that because that's one of my passions and probably the thing I'm most associated with in the public mind, in as much as there is a public mind about me. You know, rest assured, other subscribers, if you've joined because of my rock and roll content, my hauntology and psychogeography content, my content about my hometown Pontypridd, those things will continue. One of the challenges about running an interdisciplinary channel, and I can only do it that way because my attention goes from one thing to another, and I don't just want to do one thing because, you know, everything I'm interested in culturally connects to everything else. That's why the Outlaw Bookseller is the Outlaw Bookseller. That's why my insights saying, for example, rock music or science fiction are the way they are. It's because I look beyond a tiny area and I look into a much bigger sort of vein of things. It does mean it's a challenge. I have to try and keep making material for people who've joined because they like, say, my Stranglers videos or my Hawkwind videos or my walking videos, what have you. So do stick with me. What I would say is, you know, the golden rule really, say have a look at some of the other stuff because you might find that it connects in ways you wouldn't expect. What I would also say is, the thing I've really noticed with YouTube, especially when people join new, is naturally they look at the new stuff, but do look at the backlist. Some of the early videos, the video quality and the audio quality is not so good, so just turn it up. Some of those I will reshoot at some point. But do look at the backlist. Often I'm asked questions or observations are made, and the things I've addressed in other videos. So do look in the playlist, give them a try. And if you find that I'm not producing material as often the next sort of 10 days or so, there might not be anything on Saturday. There might be a science fiction one. As I say, I want to try and keep the diversity going, so I'm not going to beat you over the head with the same thing all the time. Watch the backlist. Please make that your golden rule with this channel if you're new. Check out what's happening. Some people are looking at the backlist. They're obviously looking at the things which they're enjoying. I noticed a lot of the new subscribers are looking at the science fiction backlist. Thanks for that. And there'll be a lot more on that and lots of other things. But so there we go. So I am absolutely exhausted. I've been at work every week for the last 13 weeks. I'm desperate for a holiday. It's going to be a packed one, to be honest. And, you know, really sort of what I'm saying is that if things lapse down to twice a week for a week or two, do forgive me, it will get back up to speed. So what's happening culturally in the world of the Outlaw Bookseller? So I just thought I'd talk about a few things I've been watching, reading, what have you. The other night I finished watching season 5, the final season of the very wonderful Italian crime series Gomorrah. loosely based on the book by Roberto Saviano. If you're not a fan of Italian crime fiction, but you like crime fiction, I think you need to address that. At some point, I'm going to do a little guide to Italian crime of the last sort of 20 years, which will cover films, TV series and books, particularly at the noir end, because the Italian crime writers are the finest in the world these days. And I finished watching Gomorrah. I hope some of you out there are already fans. If you've never seen this series, it's streamable on Sky, I believe. I've always watched it on Blu-ray from the beginning. It's run for 7 years, 5 series and a feature film. Absolutely fantastic. So I really enjoyed that. And I'm quite sad it's finished. But, you know, all the best things come to an end. They have a proper narrative arc which closes. Fantastic. What else? I recently read this, Gladiator Law by Pohl Kornbluth, which is a book I hadn't read. And I do like Frederick Pohl. I mean, I'm a huge fan of his book Man Plus. I find him uneven and not always compelling. He's obviously a very important Golden Age SF figure. Coming out of the Golden Age, he was a fan. And, you know, he only died relatively recently, had a very long career. Met him at the WorldCon years and years ago. Very nice, sort of incisive speaker. And C.M. Kornbluth, of course, was his collaborator a lot in the 40s, and he died very young. And Kornbluth is really revered amongst fans. For me, the jury is still out on Kornbluth. I do need to read more of his solo work, I think. I love The Space Merchants, aka Gravy Planet, their most famous book. This is clever, but almost too clever for its own good, and at times irritating, I found. And it comes from the great period of social SF in the 50s, satirical SF in the McCarthyite period, which was mostly fostered by the magazine Galaxy and the other magazine entitled The Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction. But I did find this somewhat irksome. It's a sort of, you can see the influence on somebody like Robert Sheckley though, but Sheckley would have been a lot more light-hearted with this and probably would have a bigger impact. I did get bogged down in it, so I'm afraid I wasn't so keen on that. I've got a Galaxy masterwork, but this old pan one will be moved on. Something else I read recently, I've been reading some contemporary books as I sort of got out contemporary stuff, and I read this, I Who Have Never Known Men. And I say contemporary, this actually came out first in 1995 under the title Mistress of Silence, and it's been reissued in vintage editions. And this is, as you see, this is an A format paperback, rather like the Pohl Kornbluth. Very, very beautiful, and it's the paperback in wraps. They're not French flaps, they're wraps. Even though this looks like a very French book, it looks like something, you know, Gallimard and Minuit would do. And this is good. What is it? It's a dystopian novel, I guess you would say. The narrator is a woman who lives underground, caged with 39 other women. She's never known anything else. There are male guards. It's not a book which ever resolves. It is a book about solitude, about being an outsider. It's fascinating stuff. She was Belgian. She wrote about 15 novels altogether. Is it a science fiction novel? It's hard to say. I would say it probably is, but that's not really the point. The point of it is metaphoric, but it is also a good dystopian novel. So I would say do read it. It's very powerful. The start is a bit slow. It's a bit too much getting bogged down in feelings and relationships and that sort of thing, which a lot of men often say, oh, women are always writing about these things, blah, 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 blah. Well, it is important. But it is good. It's very stark. It's not in the same ballpark as Dino Buzzati's The Tartar Step. I hope to have had a video up about that now, but after filming it, and there were copyright issues because I included some shots in the background from the Pathé film. You'd have thought Pathé would want some advertising for one of their films, which people in the UK don't really know about very much, but there you go. So I read that as well. A question which came up from one of the subscribers. I had an email from Matthew. Hi, Matthew, who bought a copy of Brian Aldiss's Greybeard from me on eBay. And he asked me this question. I'm going to put it out there just in case there's any hardcore Aldiss fans watching. Hey, Steve, the Greybeard arrived and I'm enjoying it already. I have a very quick question about the text. I'm going to shorten what he says. The Granada edition, which is the one I sold him, opens quite differently from the Gollancz Masterworks edition. You can see the difference in the preview pages on Amazon, but I can't find any mention online of different versions of the text. When there are different editions, usually the Wikipedia entry discusses them. Well, Wikipedia is not always reliable or consistent, as we know. Matthew goes on to say is that the Granada edition lists 1964 and 1984 as the copyright years, the Gollancz only 1964. The Encyclopedia of Science Fiction, which of course is online now and you should use, refers to the title as Greybeard 1964, text restored 1964. And he asks, does this mean the Granada edition was updated by Aldiss, but that Gollancz reverted to the first edition text? I think the answer is probably yes, but I'm not certain. So what I replied to that was that my go-to copy of Greybeard, which is a wonderful science fiction novel, if you haven't read it, you should, is this Seven House one from 1993. And in this, on the colophon at the rear of the title page, it says that, and it's signed by Brian there from one of my meetings with him, what a great man he was. It says that this edition was reset and revised by the author with new material, first published in Great Britain in 1993 by Seven House, with arrangement with Penguin Books, so the plot thickens. Originally the hardcover was Faber, that would have been the 1964 edition. It says the text was restored then, perhaps it was slight alterations made for a paperback license to somebody else. So what I would say is that if Gollancz are sticking to the 64 text, what's interesting about that is perhaps they only have the license for that, or perhaps they're just being sloppy. And I know I criticise Gollancz a lot these days, but quite frankly, they are resting on their laurels. So to me, the go-to edition is this 1993 one, which then, the mention of Penguin seems to indicate there's a Penguin edition, which I honestly can't remember. But, you know, it's a long time ago and I can't remember everything. So if anybody out there knows the full facts about the textual revisions of Greybeard, I don't know why 1984 got mentioned, we'll see. You know, get back to it, but it's the joy of, you know, the bedeviling detail which collectors and readers love. So there you go. So there's scratch of you. Well, I've just finished reading this, The War on the West, How to Prevail in the Age of Unreason by Douglas Murray. This is published today. Today is the 28th of April, 2022. I did try and get a proof of this, but I couldn't get one. They went really quickly. I am a great admirer of Douglas Murray's work. And before you switch off thinking, oh my God, he's a rabid right-winger, think about this. Not everybody who reads Douglas Murray, or possibly would agree with some of his viewpoints, is automatically right-wing. The thing about books like this is that we live in such a polarized age where nobody can look at actual arguments. They can only gainsay, knee-jerk, take up a certain area and feel, oh, I can't step over that line. I can't think about things. I can't argue rationally. I can't look at things objectively. I can't assess evidence. And, you know, the thing I like about Douglas's writing is that it's very much about that. And, you know, he is a conservative. He probably does favour capitalism. He's gay, which he doesn't go on about, and he could, because that would make a big difference in identity politics circles, which is something that he often critiques. What I would say about this is that it's a good read. I mean, if you don't keep up with this sort of thing, you know, and he talks about this, how, you know, how suddenly everything Western is bad and wrong, and, you know, how one-sided the argument is. I did find for me that it was kind of preaching to converted. I'm a great believer in the sort of the great things in Western culture. There have been bad things, same as there have in all cultures, but there have been some absolutely great things, and they are responsible for a lot of the freedoms and pleasures that we enjoy today, and not just as people all over the world, even though there are obviously still people living in appalling conditions who deserve to be uplifted. For me, this is the weakest of his three books. I will revisit it, but if you've never read him before and you want to sort of discover what's happening in the background of things like critical race theory, you know, and the general war on the West, where suddenly everything you do if you're white or Western is bad, and yet somehow everybody wants to come and live in the West, which is strange. You know, do read that. It is interesting, and that's out today. So that's a little update there. I may post a 100 must-read science fiction novels video sometime this weekend, but if there's no entry this weekend, don't be surprised, and aim to rejoin me next Tuesday, when I hope to have an epic Welsh mountain walk for you, which will be peppered with lots of cultural references, discussions of books, films, what have you, some amazing scenery, and, you know, hopefully a few funny moments as well. You never know if we can get the witty bone going. So this is Stephen E. Andrews, Outlaw Bookseller, signing off for now. Have a great weekend. Thanks again for subscribing, and remember, please watch the backlist. There's some good stuff there. Bye for now.